Terry Law is with us. In case you're late tuning in, he is the founder and president of World Compassion, a ministry that is celebrating 40 years of risk-taking and making a difference in unreached nations of the world. He's considered an expert, one of America's foremost speakers on nations that are normally closed to the gospel. I like to think of Terry as our reporter at large. And we're so glad when he can pop in. Terry, we're trying to move to these Middle Eastern countries. Let's go to Afghanistan and Iran in this time.
Afghanistan, in terms of the gospel presentation, is very difficult. I have missionary friends who've had to leave the country. They work out of New Delhi and come back into Kabul. The Taliban have been absolutely intransigent, and they are terrorists of the best quality in terms of their training. I'm sure Osama bin Laden is over there somewhere on the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But to try to change a country like we're trying to do and introduce freedom and democracy, you have to have, as I said earlier, you have to have some kind of an economy that can, that people can earn, make money, and build a middle class. But when all you've got is heroin and poppy seeds, you don't really have anything to build on.
And even worse, it's like if you want to vote, you're threatened. If you want your daughter to go to school, you're threatened. I mean, there's just this continual threat for any step you take toward more freedom and democracy, right? And
yes, and the recent, they were supposed to have a runoff election about a month ago. Hamid Karzai was running against Abdullah, and Abdullah backed out. And so, what you have is a figurehead that smells corruption. Everywhere you go in Afghanistan. I had a friend teaching in the university in Kabul, and a warlord came to him with a gun at gunpoint and ordered him to pass one of the young men from their tribe and make him a doctor, and he didn't know how to do anything as a doctor. Wow. But it was, Yeah,
the corruption, I mean, well, just recently in the news this week, it came out, Afghanistan is the second most corrupt country, only after Somalia, which is basically a failed state. Yeah. I actually had the opportunity to go there and actually attend a church in Afghanistan, which was quite, but I'm sad to say that this church I don't even think is anymore, because exactly what you're saying.
Expat church?
An expat church. Yeah. But I do want to say that there is a spiritual community that is there. I know someone right now who's working there and is connected, and the prayer movements that are going on in Afghanistan, I believe that is the only hope. It has taken a very sad turn in terms of the optimism that was once there for this country.
When all this started to happen just after 2001, everybody thought there'd be an explosion, spiritual explosion. But in more recent years, the underground churches had to go further underground. And there are, I would say, somewhere between 600 and 1,000 believers in the Kabul area. Nobody knows specifically who they are.
And the widows and orphans.
That's the tragedy.
Horrible numbers.
You've got 50,000 widows in Kabul. And one of our programs has been, we've got 7 houses we built for widows. And we've been training widows and orphans in practical things like sewing, computer skills, English, other things like this. And we've already got one of our students who's getting her doctorate in university. So
here are some of those students in school.
Yeah, there we are.
Beautiful. I love seeing women going to school in Afghanistan, because I prayed for years for the women there that had to wear burqas and had no freedom and couldn't learn.
Those are our schools, and they've come to
and so they can work and get a job and have money and go to school, and that's so hopeful.
But there's still these social issues. I mean, so yeah, a woman can get an education, but there are still threats about what she can actually do, where she can go, all of these things. You're talking about marriages, forced marriages, domestic abuse, mental illness. There are so many issues that have not been.
What can we do then, Denise? Like, what can we do, Terry? Then, we look at this, and Afghanistan is in the media so much. We hear about it, and our troops. So what can we do here in the West to support them? What can we do?
Most NGOs have left. we are one of the few NGOs that have stayed on the ground in Afghanistan. And they tried, the elders in a village near where we were, tried to take our buildings away. And I've just had my man over there 3 weeks ago arguing with the Ministry of Education, and they've said, no, we're doing a good work, they're going to let us continue. But it is very difficult for NGOs or organizations who really want to help to do anything, because like Denise said, there's corruption everywhere.
Could we
you have
put
hope,
could we
then?
put
Yeah,
your
I know, that's what I mean. Is there
ministry
hope there?
right here on the bottom screen right now?
Yeah.
Because one thing you can do is get behind World Compassion, and there are the coordinates. This little booklet you'll see, we've already seen it in. It's a backwards book. I mean, reads backwards.